Do you ever wonder how great leaders in the community make things happen? When they encounter new, unexpected challenges like a pandemic, how do they continue to successfully make an impact? Welcome to That Sounds Terrific, the podcast that connects you with these amazing people. Get insights on what they do to meet their goals, find out how you can help them in their mission, and learn their methods so you can be more successful at what you do. Welcome to That Sounds Terrific with host Nick Koziel.
Well, hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of That Sounds Terrific. Joining me today again, I'm proud to have Angela and Jeffrey from Probable Gaming. Welcome back to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Good to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, so I know there's some big things we wanted to talk about as far as some updates and some new services that you have, but why don't we just remind our audience about a little bit about each of you, and we'll start with you, Angela DiRosa.
Sure. Thanks, Nick. I am the program manager for the Western Problem Gambling Resource Center. So ultimately, my role in the organization is to get folks who are experiencing a gambling problem or have a loved one with a gambling problem connected to community resources like specialized counseling and treatment, Gamblers Anonymous or Gam-Anon or Smart Recovery, other peer recovery groups, provide resources to do their own information gathering and resources, and just help make sure that folks who are being negatively impacted by gambling have all of the support and resources that they need to overcome that.
Yeah, thank you. A very important job. And Jeffrey Wierzbicki.
Hi, everybody. I'm Jeffrey. I'm the Western Problem Gambling Resource Center team leader, and I work on the other side. So Angela's in treatment and recovery. I'm on the prevention and training side. So essentially what I do is provide problem gambling awareness training throughout the community to our partner organizations, to coalition groups, and really any group or people who are interested in learning more about problem gambling, gambling addiction, and how to help people that they might be coming in contact with through their work. And we also, we do a lot of health fairs, tabling events. I do handle our social media. So anybody wants to follow us on Facebook, we're at Western PGRC. We keep up to date with different things that are going on with problem gambling and different events that we might be holding as well.
Well, thank you, Jeffrey. Obviously, a very important part of the thing too. So prevention and learning about all these things. And I know when we kind of discussed coming back and talking about things, because over the last, I don't know, year, I guess there's been a lot of changes in regulations in New York State in particular and other places, and when it comes to gambling. And so why don't you just give us a little bit of an update on, I know mobile was one of the things that we were going to talk about. Why don't you give us an update on some of the things that have changed over the last couple months?
Sure, Nick. Well, one of the biggest things that's come into New York State has been the mobile sports betting that you just alluded to. Mobile sports betting went live on January 8th, 2022 at 9 a.m. And essentially what mobile sports betting allows people to do now is place bets on sporting events through their mobile devices. And for us, this is very concerning because about 85% of the population has a smartphone alone. Mm-hmm. And as we know, when you increase the accessibility of something that could be harmful or addictive, there's more people that end up having a problem. And we've never seen this type of accessibility increase. Literally overnight, this happened.
Yeah.
So with mobile sports betting, it's something that we've been focusing on in the Western New York region. We actually have developed a mobile sports betting training based on the outreach from our partners and the people that we work with, just reaching out to us saying, what's happening in the community? Why are we seeing so much advertising? Why is this on every TV station? Everyone's talking about it. What's going on? Mm-hmm. So we formed a full-on training just to teach people more about it and kind of what to look for if they're working with clients.
Yeah.
Really.
Go ahead, Angela. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, really over the last year, we've gradually been increasing people reaching out for help. But once mobile sports betting launched, it was an interesting just how quickly our uptick in calls were related specifically to mobile sports betting. So the rate of folks reaching out for help for more traditional forms of gambling has remained pretty steady and linear. But we've added to that all of these other folks now experiencing issues with sports gambling. And the particularly concerning thing is how young people are who are calling us now.
Yeah.
Traditional gambling, we're seeing a lot of upper middle age folks who are well into adulthood, they've been working. However, now it's been more college age students or parents of college age students who are just finding out that their student is spending all of this extra money that they don't have on sports betting. And it's escalated so quickly that it's really been over the course of months that people are starting to lose substantial amounts of money, getting completely distracted from school or work because of their gambling. And again, because it's right next to them, basically at every moment that they're awake. And a lot of these folks also don't have experience with other addictions, other mental health issues. This is brand new territory for them. So we now have this new subset of individuals experiencing harm and engaging in harmful activities with really not many tools to combat it or any idea where to start.
Yeah, I know. I'm glad you brought all that up, because it kind of ties back to one of the subjects, and at least I think anyway, and you can educate me a little bit more, that we kind of focused on in the last episode with are you seeing a like correlation and maybe like a desensitization to the gaming aspect of online games having games of chance and actual monetary betting even within games? Do you think that there's a direct connection to that and now this mobile gaming experience or mobile gambling experience?
Yeah, Nick, especially during COVID, a lot of people spent a lot of time online. So, and that included young people, kids, older people. We were trapped at home. We were online for work. We were online for entertainment. It's interesting. One of the things that's happening with the gaming industry and the gambling industry is this blurring of the lines between gaming and gambling. So in gaming, there's things called loot boxes. Loot boxes are basically people are spending real money. They're buying something that they're hoping there's something cool inside of it, whether it's a weapon or whatever, to help their character be better in the game. And if they don't get those special things, they just can buy another loot box. So essentially that is gambling. And actually in the UK, it is considered gambling and is defined as gambling. I'm not sure if the US will do that as well, but we're hoping in the future it's recognized a little bit more. And what one of the disturbing things is that the casinos are now catching on, and the casinos are developing gaming machines in a casino to sort of mimic this look of a first-person shooter game or a video game, even as far as with the controller that people use for the game. So I have a 14-year-old son who's really good at video games. When he's old enough to go into a casino, if he sees a slot machine or a game that mimics something he's really good at, it's an easy transition for him to think, I could be really good at this. I could win this. And, one of the things we talk about when we talk to people is about how, millennials are not going into casinos. So they're looking at ways to try to attract younger gamblers into the casinos. And this is one of the ways that they're doing that.
Right.
The online gaming aspect of online gambling, those activities are also increasing as well. And, like with the mobile sports betting and just the number of ways that you can now pick up your phone and start spending money and gambling, it's unprecedented in the times that we're in right now.
Yeah, it's such easy access. And I was in fundraising for a very long time. We often talk about how every dollar counts, every little bit that someone gives makes an impact. And some things that I've noticed with the ease of just even online shopping, let alone gambling, is how quickly things add up behind the scenes that you're not paying attention to. Back when we had paper money and that's what we used, is a little bit it was a little easier to see that you had $20 in your pocket, and the psychology of that, even like, so if, like, for me, and I don't know if this was the same for you, but like if I had a $50 bill in my wallet it was very unlikely that I'm going to spend that on something frivolous like candy or whatever.
Mhm.
It's going to stay in my wallet longer because it was a bigger bill. But if I had 51s or, you know, even a couple fives, I spent that like it was nothing. And
Yes.
it's an interesting psychological experiment that I know people have had and been involved with. But circling back, I mean, I think it's that ease that you're talking about and the access, and then to top it off, younger people don't always have that responsibility for money and income.
Right. And like you were saying with gaming, I mean, sports is just another game type activity. So, sporting events, watching sports on TV with your family, being involved in sports, that's very
Yep.
traditional and long-standing positive activities for young people, teenagers, adults alike, and something that a lot of people gravitate towards as a common interest. So now, kind of talking about that desensitization, you can't turn on a sports event on TV without gambling being constantly reinforced, whether it's the ticker on the screen, the announcers talking about odds, or mentioning something about gaming. And then, of course, all of the sponsorships. I
Hmm.
know that, one of the things that came up early on was that the Manning family is a sponsor and a spokesperson as this squeaky clean family that would never be involved in anything, seedy or
Hmm.
questionable. So it just brings back that concept of family oriented, safe activities, and that includes gambling now.
Yeah, no, I totally see what you're talking about, and it kind of goes right over everything that you watch on TV, you know, the commercials all on, like, you know, TikTok, you know, when you're on the social media things, those are popping up, the casino games and mobile
Hmm.
sports betting. I remember seeing on that as well. It's just everywhere, and you know, again, like tying back to something Jeffrey was even saying about his son being a gamer, both of my sons are very into video games as well. But I'm thinking even about the sports games themselves. When you think about, you know, EA Sports, NHL, like that same treasure box mentality, you can get, like, you know, the third alternate jersey, you can get that, you know, Hall of Famer player, you know, on your team, for the online aspect. And it's all about spending either virtual cash or real cash to get virtual cash.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. And the thing about it too, and this kind of goes back to what you were saying about the $50 bill in your wallet. And
yeah.
I know this because my son spends my money on these video games. Um, it might be as small as 99 cents to buy
Yeah.
one of these loot boxes or something. So, years and years ago, when my son started playing games and he would ask me for $2 for one of the games, I didn't really think anything of it. 99 cents for something. I didn't think too much about it. And then as I kind of learned more and learned what it was being used for, then I started to think of it differently. And I started looking at, this is adding up. And it's really not adding up to anything tangible. It's,
Right.
like you said, a Hall of Fame player on a team that he's not going to play in 3 months.
Yeah.
So that digital sense to the currency, the cash not changing hands, we saw casinos switch to that with the cards and things like that, and years ago. And the mobile sports betting, the industry, has done that same thing where you can push a button on your phone or tap your screen, and the money switches from one place to another. And
Right.
I think that's one of the most concerning parts for us, is just losing track. And when you allude to young people not really understanding the dollar anyway,
Hmm.
all of that advertising we're talking about, so much of it's being targeted to young people. Young
Right.
people are downloading the apps. It's very much a young person that they're trying to attract. Young people are inexperienced bettors. They don't know how much, really the value of the dollar as much as, some people do. And they're, making big mistakes really quickly, as Angela mentioned, with the number of callers that we've seen and that increase already.
Right. Yeah, it's a very scary world that we live in for so many different reasons, and this is just one more thing to worry about as a parent. But even as, you know, a husband, a wife, you know, as people are getting used to these systems and they're becoming that much more easy to, you know, to lose. You know,
Hmm.
and I totally can relate about those 99-cent treasure boxes and things like that too, because that's sort of the argument that you get from a kid. And when you have a teen that has access to their own mobile wallet, there is no, parent that's kind of standing in the way of like that, those all those purchases. So
Yeah,
it adds up.
it does. And, you know, we don't want to throw too many statistics out there, but with mobile sports betting, in the first 5 weeks that mobile sports betting was legal, so from January 9th to February 13th, which included the Super Bowl, New Yorkers wagered $2.4 billion in 5 weeks, which equated to about $4.6 million a day lost by New Yorkers.
Mm-hmm.
And really, just overnight, New York became the sports betting capital of the United States. And that's what we're up against now.
Yeah. That's a crazy and staggering number to think about. So what are some things that parents and or even just a regular person can kind of think about or consider when it comes to mobile sports betting? What is I'm thinking for some reason of the drink responsibly ads, right? Like they talk about like alcohol and things like that, but make sure you drink responsibly. How can you be responsible when it comes to researching this type of gambling?
Well, one of the things that we often talk to parents about in particular is that because gambling is so normalized, we don't necessarily tell our kids that gambling is okay or that it's fun or anything, but we also don't tell them about the risks, the dangers, or that we think it's unacceptable for them to gamble when they're underage. We frequently give scratch off lottery tickets and birthday cards, or if we get one, we let our kids scratch the other one or pick the lucky numbers for the lottery. So there's no significant encouragement, but there's also no discouragement. So
Right.
the first thing that anyone can do really is just talk about how this type of behavior, while in general not awful, can be risky, just like consuming alcohol, using drugs, smoking cigarettes, and they have to consider the dangers when they're making those decisions. Certainly paying attention to where your money's going, if you are funding wallets and things for your kids, is important as well. And if you start seeing a lot of those microtransactions, again, going back to that conversation of risk, explaining to people, young people in particular, that purchasing those loot boxes is a form of gambling because you're wagering, you're risking something of value on a chance to get a reward. And the chances are uncertain or less than certain. So there is that risk involved. So overall, open communication, making sure that you know what your kids are doing, what money's being spent on, and that you're not necessarily saying, don't do that, this is very wrong, but helping them understand the dangers and practice positive decision making.
Yeah. Go ahead, Jeff.
They can translate over to adults pretty well too. If you have a loved one or a family member who takes a sudden interest in a sport that maybe they've never had an interest in, and you hear different terms like the over under or the spread or a parlay, and you start hearing terms that you're not used to hearing. There's a different interest in sports, and then of course, as Angela mentioned, that keeping an eye on that money stream and knowing where it's going, because it adds up fast and it can get out of control really fast. And if anybody wants to reach out to us directly, we'd be happy to kind of have those conversations just to help people know what to look for as well.
Yeah. And we'll definitely have all of your contact information in the show notes. I know you've shared your number and a couple other things already, but something else that just popped in my head was an experience that I had actually on Reddit. There was I won't even say the game just so we don't, but there was a game that got discontinued. All right. And I was upset and annoyed because I really enjoyed playing this game, and it was going away. And they were just going to power down the servers. So you couldn't be able to play it anymore. Even though you own that disc, you don't own the right to play it in perpetuity. It's just disappearing. Right.
Oh, wow.
So that was upsetting to me because, I spent $60 probably on that disc. Right. And then what I didn't realize was there were some notes in that thread. I spent over $1,000 on this game, getting all the digital like assets,
Hmm.
and so some of those things were, of course, those treasure boxes we were talking about, Jeffrey, and but it just never occurred to me until that moment, until we started having, a conversation about having you back on the show, that that is still sort of like a gambling thing that just went away, even though they won things, it went away. Um, so it's just, and I just don't, I wanted to bring it up because I think it's kind of loosely connected to what we're talking about,
Hmm.
but it's just something else to consider, that even when you win something, sometimes you lose, right?
Absolutely. And there's, we talk about winning money or stuff or whatever because we're excited about it, we're proud of it, what have you, but we don't ever talk about, well, I won 50, but it cost me 200 to
Right.
buy all of those tickets or whatever. So again, it's kind of a perfect storm that, gambling is very normalized and it's taboo to talk about finances, especially if the financial situation is not good. So we really only hear about people winning. We never really hear about how much they're losing. So you're absolutely
Yeah.
right. There's a lot of loss behind those big wins that you see in the paper or on Facebook or online or whatever.
And often with gambling problems, Nick, when people are behind and they do make up for the money that they lost, you would think they broke even now, and that's good, but
Mhm.
that's not what it was about. It was about the gambling. And
Right.
even when they break even, it's just keep betting, keep betting, keep betting. So you're right. When you win, you still often lose.
Right. Yeah, no, it's an important point to bring up, and something else that I think is very worth is worth revisiting. It's just some of the warning signs. I would love for you guys to share, when it comes to mobile betting, or any form of betting. What are some warning signs that we, as parents, as friends and family, should look out for?
Well, as you know, and many people probably realize, gambling, problem gambling, is considered the hidden addiction just because of how easily it can be hidden. It doesn't necessarily have the same physical manifestations that substances would have or other types of addictions. But one thing to pay attention to, in addition to, monitoring money and things of that nature, is changes in behavior or activities or priorities with a person. So if you are with someone who typically, makes it to most family events, is a hard worker, is in contact with friends and family on a regular basis, but that person has started to drop off, that may be an indication that they're reprioritizing some things. Um, if they're experiencing significant shifts in mood, especially like with mobile sports betting, if they've always enjoyed the game, but now it seems like there's a lot more pressure during a game or during a play, and the person, it doesn't seem to be having fun anymore. That may be because there's money on the line and it might be worth a conversation. But anytime, lying is involved, there's any sort of secrecy, preoccupation, having to spend more and more money or more and more time on the activity instead of doing it more recreationally or occasionally can be a concern. So we always encourage people to just share their concerns, but we also have a variety of resources available to help people who maybe want to approach a loved one, a child, a parent about this issue. So they have some tools and some ways to approach the conversation in, a non-accusatory way, but be supportive and non-judgmental. But also get support for themselves if it turns out that their loved one is experiencing a problem and they just don't know what to do about it.
Right. No, those are all good points, and important things to look out for. And you know, some flags are going off in my head already for some people I know. um, but yeah, I mean, but this is one of those things, and I think we mentioned it last time. It's very easy to fall under the radar until you're, $130,000 in debt.
Mhm.
And we do want to mention too, real quickly,
Sure.
um, with all those different warning signs that Angela's talking about, we never want anyone to feel like the problem that they're experiencing is not severe enough to reach out for help.
Right.
So even if someone is just experiencing some distress or anxiety because they think they're gambling too much, or maybe they try to cut back and they're just having a really hard time doing it, they might not think, oh, I'm not a gambler. I don't have an addiction. This isn't bad. But if it's causing any kind of a problem, that's what we're there for. And that's who we can help. And we want to catch those things early.
Yeah, no, I think that's very important, and you're absolutely right. So best ways to contact you guys.
We have an outfacing number, and people can call us at area code 716-833-4274, or email us at Western PGRC at nyproblemgambling.org. We also have our website, nyproblemgamblinghelp.org, and we're only open 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. So if anyone needs 24-hour assistance, they can reach out to 988, which is now a much easier number for the SAMHSA helpline, or they can call the New York State Helpline, 877-8NY HOPE.
Hope NY.
Hope NY. Thanks, Jeffrey.
No, you got a lot of numbers to memorize.
I never have to call that phone number myself.
It's let me repeat it. It's 877-8 HOPE NY. And you can also text HOPE NY to 467-369. And I have to admit, it's written down in front of me, so I probably wouldn't have remembered that either. But those are the easiest ways to get into contact with us.
Sure. I appreciate that. I appreciate you repeating all that, because sometimes it's, those auditory learners, and they're driving or something, or maybe they're gonna call right away, right? So appreciate you explaining that. And Angela, believe me, I can't remember numbers, so I was impressed. I'm like, you know what, I put her on the spot and she's doing great. So but no, I really appreciate you both being, coming back and talking more about this topic. Is there anything we haven't talked about in regards to that, you just want to get out there to the public?
Well, just as a security measure for folks who might be experiencing an issue with mobile sports betting, in addition to all of our services like counseling, peer support, and recovery, there is the mobile sports books now are covered by the New York State Voluntary Self-Exclusion Program. So anyone prior to this could sign themselves out of a state licensed casino because they're experiencing a problem, and it basically bars them from going onto the premises for a designated amount of time. That self-exclusion now covers all of the mobile sports books. So if you exclude from the casino, it will automatically exclude you from the sports books, or there is a way to exclude yourself from each sports book individually. So there is that precaution that New York State and the Gaming Commission put in place. But again, you don't necessarily have to remember that. We're here to help you if you are interested in exploring that as an option. And we just, we're neutral on gambling. We know that most people aren't going to develop a problem, but we want to make sure that people out there know that there is support and help if they are experiencing it, and we're available and willing to help anybody who needs it.
Well, thank you, Angela. Anything else you want to add to, Jeffrey?
No, I think Angela kind of summed it up with the self-exclusion. There are some safeguards built in within the sportsbook apps. We won't go into all of those now because I could go on forever. But New York State has put some really good safeguards in place. And if anybody is interested in learning more about that or doing that for themselves, it is on the user to do that. So we'd be happy to help somebody with those safeguards that are within the apps in the sports books as well.
Great. Well, you both have been, again, terrific guests and provide a wonderful service to the community. Being there as a service of help and assistance and support is super important. Jeff, thanks for educating our community. Angela, thanks for being here and talking about what you do as well. I just think that it's important that we get the word out there to help people that might need that assistance. So thank you again for being on the show.
Yeah, we appreciate you having us.
Thank you so much. Anytime.
Thank you for joining us on another episode of That Sounds Terrific. Don't forget to check out the show notes and our website at thatsoundsterrific.com to find the contact information and the best ways to volunteer with the organizations that we feature. If you know someone that is doing terrific things and think they should be featured in a future episode, be sure to email us their name, contact info, and short description of what they're doing at thatsoundsterrific@gmail.com. If you like our show, give us a 5-star rating and give us some social media love by liking our Facebook page, That Sounds Terrific. Follow us on Twitter at Sounds Terrific 2 and Instagram at Sounds Terrific. We love hearing your feedback on how to make our show sound even more terrific. Till next time.